Hello, I am Dr. Kara from KH Evolution, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about Spring Equinox. We have just celebrated Spring Equinox a week ago, and from a person living up north who experiences a good solid winter, I love Spring Equinox because it reminds me that summer is coming, which is one of my favorite times of the year. But spring is also a beautiful time of the year. And although I often will talk about the challenge of living through winter, I recognize and appreciate each and every season and the transitions between the seasons. And the equinoxes and the solstices are fabulous times in our year where not only are we experiencing them on a calendar, but nature is experiencing them significantly as a planet. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that today. I want to talk about how nature, our planet, our soil, Earth, it knows that it's spring equinox. It knows when it's summer solstice. Everything working synergistically on the planet, the tides, the moon, the sun, the earth, all of the elements coming together. They create this magical thing that's happening in and around us to sustain life. And we often will go about our business and our work days, and we don't often think about the magic of what's happening right beneath our feet. And I want to just kind of remind you that this is happening on a cycle, and that there's an importance to each cycle that we experience. And we know that within the soil, within the plants, there's spirit, there's energy. All living things, many stationary things, absorb the energy, have a life force within them that we can interact with. And so at spring equinox, we actually have this big push of energy that moves through the soil, kind of an awakening of sorts that is aligning everything so that as we plant seeds in the soil, those seeds will have a beautiful vibration, that a synergy that comes to them throughout the planet for a period of time throughout spring, where the force, the energetic force, initiates life. And it's such an amazing thing to think about. And then later, as the seed bursts open and we have life coming from that seed and finally making its way up out of the darkness and into the light of the day. These seeds are in constant motion when they're enclosed within themselves, but when they crack open and life starts to emerge and we start to see them breaking the surface of the soil, that's when we kind of start that connection to them, because it's in our visual awareness. But there's so much happening below the surface, in and around us, that we really can't touch. It's not tangible oftentimes, but it's significantly impacting life on our planet, and it's significantly impacting us as humanity on the planet. So I just wanted to first off, remind you of this amazing life force that's in and around us, and that is nurturing the seeds that you might be planting, if you do any gardening, into the soil very soon. And I invite you to spend time in nature. I know many of us clean up our yards. We might be planting flowers, or we might be planting seeds of a garden. And we often we'll do it in a hurry, or we will do it without presence and without being mindful. And this year I invite you to be a little more mindful about the planting, about putting your fingers through the earth, about perhaps the organisms that you can't see, or maybe the creepy crawlies that you can see, and just giving gratitude for them and understanding and coming aware of the symbiotic nature that each and every living thing, living element within your ecosystem, it all depends upon one another. And one of the big depending factors is this life force energy, and how this life force energy comes together and what it's going to create. And each growing season is unique. And it's been kind of interesting as nature has made me more aware of the energy and the life force that is helping to bring our plants forward and to produce fruit and vegetables and oxygen and all of the things that help us create and live a beautiful, healthy life. And as I've become more and more aware of this life force, and listening to people talk about the seasons, right? And last year in our community, many people spoke of their cucumbers not being perfect, and that they struggled. And it's like, well, maybe it was the weather in terms of not enough rain or too much rain, or it was really wet, or it was too cold. And all of those factors, while they're important, I think it's really fascinating to also think about the push of energy that influxed into our soil last week during Spring Equinox, and the potential that it brought into the soil to help produce very specific plants, to help nurture very specific seeds for a big purpose. We see this with herbalism as well. We see certain plants thriving in nature haphazardly without human intention. That really is important to perhaps the struggles or illnesses that humanity in that particular area is going to be experiencing as the months unfold. And if I think back to when I spent time with my grandmother, I think that in one way or another, she understood this. She would say certain things to me and share certain things about when things were plenty, it often would mean that X, Y, and Z would happen. And I feel that comes from this energy that's in the earth that is working together symbiotically to promote something upon our planet to really help us, to help not only humans, but also all of plant life, and to create this beautiful, sustainable ecosystem in a very synergistic and symbiotic way. So, if you haven't checked out last week's podcast when it came out, I urge you to do that. I went into a greater detail on this life force energy that gets released into the soil and also gets released into the planet, particularly during these season changes. So first, I want you to just, create some awareness around it. If this piques your interest and you want to learn more, definitely check out that podcast. I think you'll find it interesting and enjoyable to listen to. And as you move through your planting season, as you move through spring, as you watch the trees awaken as they begin to bud around you, as you watch flowers emerge later on in spring, I hope that you will accept the invitation from the trees and the shrubs and the grass and all of the plants, all of the life that is bursting forward around you, to connect with them. Each plant has a voice, and each organism, each plant system, they have a particular energy, a personality to them. And have a little fun with it. check out the personality of perhaps your azaleas, or maybe your blooming trees. Everything in nature, it is a living being, and it has a spirit and energy within it. And it's been so fun over these past 3 years, really getting to know the spirit and the wisdom that's being offered up by all the living things on my property. And I invite you to do the same and leave some comments below, or check back, or post in the Facebook group or on Instagram, because we can learn so much from nature. And when we pair with it, when we become synergistic with it, then it's that time when the magic gets amplified, when the potential gets amplified, and we get to see and produce and create, co-create amazing things. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have an amazing day and enjoy springtime.